Welcome to the Positively No Gambling Podcast, a pro football show that is definitely not about betting. My name is Glenn Fraser. It is Tuesday, August 26th, and this is the 2025 team preview for the world champion Philadelphia Eagles. Fun one. Let's go. Preview format, we're going to look at two big questions from the start of the offseason, recap 2024, preview 2025, including a schedule look at some trend stats, lines against the spread leans, conclude on those two big questions, and give out a prelim over under pick. The final pick for the season total wins will be part of the AFC and NFC previews posted right before the season starts in September. With that said, the two big questions, really, there are only two big questions for the Eagles. They won the freaking Super Bowl. Do they have an elite defense still? With a lot of changes, a lot of guys that were part of this scene in February, which was a dominant win against the Chiefs for the title, were pending free agents and have left. Can they can they address that? Do they still have one of the best defenses in the league? And will they handle the Super Bowl pressure? This is a theoretical question that's not always obvious to answer. There's a lot of pressure that goes on any team that wins a Super Bowl. Don't even need to say it. Some teams do just fine. Other teams retreat back into mediocrity after they win a Super Bowl. Okay, recapping 24, just a remarkable season. I mean, my goodness. 14-3, won the East, didn't even have a bye and didn't matter. They played every game in Philly. They beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Magical playoff run. In terms of their regular season, they started off a little tepid, 2-2. Were some injuries, that weird Monday night game against Atlanta. They played in Tampa and lost when they had a lot of injuries, very early bye, and then coming out of that bye, I mean, soft schedule, yes, but also just racked up the wins. 12-1. The only loss they had was in Washington when Jalen Hurts was injured for most of the second, I think the entire second half, and Washington had one of their miracle comebacks. They even won against the Giants week 18 when they didn't have anything to play for. Um, they were 5-2 against playoff teams, which is worth highlighting because it's not like they were dominant against playoff teams, and it's not like they even had to play that many playoff teams, which shows, right? Their schedule was third ranked. It was a pretty easy schedule and a pretty lucky schedule when it comes to how difficult this schedule looked versus where it ended up. And look, this happens. Not every team takes advantage of it. Philly did. They quote overachieved by a win and a half, roughly, which do I remember a bunch of games that they squeaked by? Not really, to be honest with you. Maybe Green Bay, um, maybe that first Washington game. But beyond that, I think that this was a team that didn't get by luck. They got by skill, which is what you look for. 8-2 in one score games, which for some teams is a red flag. For other teams, might just be part of who they are and part of their identity. They've got just an insane roster, and they went through one of the best Super Bowl runs in memory. If you were not betting on Philly, basically from like week 9 against the Jaguars on, you lost a lot of money because they were a very safe bet in a lot of these games, including the playoff run. Offense, I mean, visually speaking, this is just one of the most talented, complete offenses in football. In terms of who they lost very little. Mekhi Becton went over to the Chargers. He's a good guard. If there is a weakness, Tyler Steen, their right guard, might be one of them. Does that matter? I don't know. Kenneth Gainwell, they lost to Pittsburgh. They obviously have Saquon, who is probably the best back in football, but they do look a little thin at running back. So maybe that matters. Beyond that, they lost very little. Paris Campbell to Dallas, Fred Johnson to the Jaguars. That's not really anything of note. In terms of who they added, they didn't really add any starters, but they did add some rotational slash backup guys. Matt Pryor, guard coming in from Chicago, AJ Dillon, running back coming in from the Packers, Kendall Lamb, backup tackle from Miami. Nothing really to mess with here. Why mess with such a talented roster? Blue chips, I'm putting in Hurts. That's an argument, but he's definitely one of the better quarterbacks. Saquon without saying, Brown without saying, Mailata, Dickerson, and Johnson on the O line. Devonta Smith's not really high potential. He's top potential. And Dallas Goedert, maybe not in the top 10 of their positions, but pretty damn good. And X Factor, I mean, if Jalen Hurts continues to play like he did the back half of last season, in terms of minimizing mistakes and getting first downs and all the good things that Philly does, I would expect this offense to be one of the league's best again. Not a make or break by any means. It's the same exact lineup for the most part under new leadership. The one thing, new offensive coordinator, maybe that matters, maybe that doesn't, but it's something to note. Kevin Patullo is the offensive coordinator after Kellen Moore has departed for New Orleans to be their head coach. Now, the defense, and this is the unit that won them the Super Bowl, that got them to the Super Bowl. And there are some changes that we should point out. Lost the edge Josh Sweat to Arizona, lost D tackle Milton Williams to New England, lost Isaiah Rodgers to Minnesota, Darius Slay to Pittsburgh, Oren Burks to Cincinnati, CJ Gardner Johnson to Houston, Bryce Huff to San Francisco. Some of these guys were less impactful, but without a doubt, especially in the Super Bowl and leading up to the Super Bowl, Sweat, Williams look like big losses. In terms of who they added, Azeez Ojulari from the Giants, edge rusher, Joshua Uche, edge rusher from the Chiefs, Adoree Jackson, probably a rotational cornerback from the Jets, sorry. Drafted Jihad Campbell, which a lot of people considered him to be their favorite prospect. Obviously, he's an inside linebacker. You wouldn't take him earlier than Philly took him, but there were a lot of people love that pick. Some injury concerns, I think that's why he fell, but look like a classic Philly draft pick, which is he'll probably be an all-pro pretty soon and be a impactful player on this team. Same thing with Andrew Mukuba, safety. A lot of people like that. So they realized that they needed to replenish this defense. They still have Jalen Carter. They still have Zach. They re-signed Zach Bond. They've got Mitchell, Blankenship, DeJean, Nolan Smith. Um, they still have a ton of talent. You plug in Jihad Campbell, potentially can anchor this inside linebacking core along with Bond. I mean, this could be the best front seven in football. And honestly, it could be one of the best secondaries in football. So sure, there's some question marks and some X factors. Ojulari, Uche, Campbell. The additions become the X factors if they can replace fully Sweat and Williams, some of the other guys they lost, then yeah, this becomes another top 5 unit. And no make or break. They're looking to be just as dominant as they were in 24. Schedule, tough schedule. We've talked about it with every team in the NFC East. Just it lines up that way. You have to play the NFC North. You have to play the AFC West. Both of those divisions had a lot of playoff teams last season, so you're not getting around a tough schedule, but there are some nuances here. Their schedule at home is kind of mediocre, at league average. You would think they'll take advantage of that. They've got the Rams at home, Denver at home, the Giants, obviously, Detroit, the Bears, the Raiders, Commanders. Like this is a tough schedule at home, but nothing brutal. The road schedule is where if you think this team's taking a step back, the road schedule is something you could point out. Week 2, after that kickoff Thursday night football against Dallas, where they'll do the banner ceremony, the ring ceremony, all that good stuff. Go immediately with some rest, fine, but you go immediately into the Super Bowl rematch in Kansas City. That is a tough game. Tampa in September, always tough. They always play Philly well. In Minnesota, week 7, in Green Bay, coming off a bye, week 10. Dallas, they always play in the Chargers, at the Commanders, at Buffalo, week 17. These are brutal, brutal games. 11 total games versus playoff teams. That just is what it is. They're the best team in football, so they're, of course, going to play a tough schedule. So, as tough as this seems, they're a favorite in 14 of the 16 games. They're a pick 'em against the Chiefs. That'll settle somewhere. Things don't land on a pick 'em. Chiefs will probably be favored by 1.5 or 2. They're a 1.5 point dog right now in Buffalo, week 17. Long time before we play that game, but everything else, all of these games, including in Green Bay, including in Washington, Philly's a favorite right now to look ahead line. So, yes, it's tough, but they're also, at least by Vegas, expected to win a lot of these games. All right, some of the Barnwell stats. Nothing. Some things jump out. Let's dive into them. The Pythagorean wins versus actual wins. They quote overachieved by a game and a half. I don't. I think they were so talented. I don't really remember them eking by or winning games that they shouldn't have. They're not like the Chiefs. 8-2 in those close games. Turnover differential worth pointing out. They were +4, and fumble recoveries. That tends to revert. 23-24 win increase. They won 3 more games than they did in 23. That was that sort of lost second half of that season. That sometimes reverts. The things to point out are the strength of schedule. They had a very easy go in 24 and took full advantage, and some pretty good luck last year. Now it looks a lot tougher, which we just looked at. O-line and D-line, I mean, worth noting that they just have the best or near the best in the league in both O-line and D-line, so they should win a lot of those matchups. In terms of against the spread leans that I like based on look-ahead lines, I said that week 4 will be tough in Tampa, and it will because of the weather and how hot it's going to be and potential rainstorms. So that's always worth monitoring. But right now, they're only 2.5 point favorites. I like them there. Week 5, I love the Broncos, but God, shouldn't they be a 7 point dog in Philly? I would think so. Week 13, same thing. Bears, I mean, 6.5. That number could jump way up by the time they actually play this game. And then week 16 at the Commanders, Philly's only a 1 point favorite. Long time before we play that game, but that's one to look at good in terms of potential good value there. Now there is very similar to the Chiefs, plenty of indicators that this team will regress, but I've got them as the most talented roster in the league, and there are really nice matchups that they will look to take advantage of. And I think that when it comes to the over-under, which is set at 11 and a half, I'm going to go over. I think that they've replenished the defense. I think they'll handle this pressure just fine. It's Philly. They always have a chip on their shoulder. They don't seem to be a team that will check out the year after. They all seem uh, pretty solidified as a unit. Doesn't seem to chirp much. Obviously, 2 seasons ago was a weird year, but everything else I've seen out of this team indicates that this is not one of those playoff Super Bowl winners that doesn't make the playoffs the next year. So they're poised to have. I'm putting them at 12 to 14 wins right now. I'm thinking a very deep playoff run, another Super Bowl contender with Philly. Things to note: road schedule's brutal. Target's always going to be there. Ton of games on TV, ton of games standalone. Ton of every Philly game is something that all their opponents are circling. So it's comes with winning, right? Eight eight playoff teams. They play 8 of their road games are against playoff teams. So they're not going to win close to all these games. So this will be a tight one if you're taking over 11 and a half, but I think that there's enough there. And just to really sum them up, it's a balancing act of literally the most expensive offense in the league. All of the contracts go to the offense, and trying to recapture that great defense from last year, despite some new faces. It's an over. I'll go reluctant over. Could change, but right now I like the over of 11 and a half for Philly. Okay, so that wraps up Philly. Tomorrow we're talking about the other Pennsylvania team, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Thanks.